You could park a Chevy Suburban in each one of PK Subban's pant legs right now. This is insane. That was the assessment from social media personality Rob Gucci. Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy was more direct. Totally normal pants on PK Subban 1, find a new slant. These were not commentators reacting to a brutal hit or a legendary goal. They were reacting to a man's outfit. And on the opening night of the Stanley Cup Playoffs, the night hockey's holy war begins, that's the only thing anyone could talk about. He was a 7-time All-Star, a Norris Trophy winner known for his explosive skill and a personality that could fill an arena all by itself. But the moment he stepped in front of the ESPN camera on Sunday night, something changed. His name is PK Subban, and this is the story of his pants. To understand just how a simple wardrobe choice could hijack the narrative of the entire National Hockey League, you have to start with the image itself, the evidence. A fitted long-sleeve black shirt, simple, understated, a classic choice that draws no attention. And then the trousers. They were not just wide leg. That description fails to capture the scale, the sheer architectural ambition of the fabric. They were vast, cavernous, each leg a declaration of independence from the laws of tailoring. They didn't just hang, they occupied territory. Paired with the fitted shirt, the effect was jarring, a deliberate violation of proportion. It was a choice, and the reaction was immediate, and it was total. Barstool's Liam Blutman added, PK Subban looks like a teacher that will respond, I don't know, can you? When you ask if you can go to the bathroom. The mockery was as specific as it was widespread. One viewer wrote, literally every time PK Subban has worn the worst outfit humanly possible, he wears something far worse than I could have ever envisioned. Another suggested, Subban should have his pants get bigger each round of the playoffs. This was not an anomaly. This was the culmination of a career spent treating the arena tunnel like a runway. In Montreal, Nashville, New Jersey, his pregame outfits were legendary. Wide-brimmed hats, impeccably tailored suits in impossible colors, chains that would make a rapper blush. He cultivated an image of a man who played by his own rules, not just on the ice but in the world of style. He understood the spectacle, he courted it. So when the world reacted with a mix of awe and mockery, he wasn't surprised. He was prepared. He seemed to revel in the chaos. When Dave Portnoy mocked him, Subban's public reply was simple. FG writes Dave, woo, you can borrow him anytime. It was the response of a man who is not the butt of the joke but the author of it. He wasn't caught, he was conducting. He was inviting them in, pouring gasoline on the fire he himself had started and warming his hands by the blaze. He knew, of course he knew. This was not PK Subban's first foray into the world of bold fashion. This was a master at work, but this felt different. This wasn't just a colorful suit or a flashy hat. This was a statement so loud it drowned out everything else. The question is why? Was it just a bad outfit, a simple miscalculation, or was it something else entirely? Was it a strategic masterstroke from a man who has always understood the power of attention better than anyone else on the ice? To answer that, you have to look at what everyone stopped looking at the moment those pants appeared on screen. The real story. Here's what was actually happening in the world of hockey that night. The stories that were supposed to matter. Two high-profile playoff matchups were on the doubleheader broadcast. In one, the Boston Bruins faced the Buffalo Sabres. Think of the city of Buffalo, a fan base that has endured more than a decade of darkness, 13 years without a single playoff game. That's an entire generation of young fans who have never known what it feels like. The hope, the energy, the belief, and on this night they finally had it. They were facing the Boston Bruins, a perennial powerhouse, a machine of modern hockey with 16 playoff berths in 20 years. It was the perfect narrative, the long-suffering underdog against the established giant, and Buffalo won, a 4-3 thriller, a moment of pure catharsis for a city that desperately needed it. It was buried. In the other game, you had the other side of the coin, the Utah Mammoth, a team so new the paint on their logo was barely dry. Their first season in the league 2024 and they claw their way into the postseason, an impossible feat, the birth of a hockey culture in a new city, a moment of validation for the league's expansion strategy. Their opponents, the Vegas Golden Knights, the gold standard for expansion success with 8 playoff runs in their first 9 seasons. It was the master against the apprentice, a story about the future of the league playing out in real time, Vegas W. On 4-2 establishing their dominance. Also buried. But even those stories pale in comparison to the history that was made off the ice. In the New York metropolitan area, 3 teams hold court, the Rangers, the Islanders, the Devils. Since 1982, when the Devils entered the league, not a single year had passed where at least one of those 3 teams wasn't in the Stanley Cup Playoffs, for 42 straight years. Through dynasties and droughts, through lockouts and legends, one of them always made it. It was a fundamental truth of the NHL's Eastern Conference, a constant, a law of hockey physics. And this year, that law was broken. The entire New York hockey ecosystem, a pillar of the league, had collapsed in unison. For the first time in history, all three were out. A power vacuum, the end of an era, a story that should have dominated headlines for a week, sparking endless debate about a changing of the guard in the sport. And what was the lead story? What image dominated every social media feed, every sports blog, every water cooler conversation the next morning? PK Subban's pants. He didn't just steal the show, he stole the entire narrative of the league. With a single outfit, he made the first night of the Stanley Cup Playoffs a footnote to his own personal fashion show. He achieved total media dominance. And this is where the story gets real. This is where you have to ask the hard question. What if it was on purpose? The modern monster. We spend our time on this channel talking about the terrifying legends of the sport, the men who dominated the game through sheer force of will. When we speak of Gordie Howe, we don't just mean the goals, we mean the calculated, quiet menace. The way he'd use an elbow in the corner in the first period, not to injure but to plant a seed of fear that would bloom for the next 59 minutes. The opponent would be thinking about the next hit, not the next pass. It was psychological warfare, waged in the dark corners of the rink. When we speak of Bobby Hull, it wasn't just the 118-mile-per-hour slapshot. It was the asterisk threat of it. The way defensemen would part like the Red Sea, the way goalies would flinch before the puck ever left his stick. He controlled space without even touching anyone, a gravitational force of pure power. When we speak of Dave the Hammer Schultz, it was the explosion, the unpredictability. His eyes would get big, as his teammates said, and you knew a demon was about to be unleashed. He was a force of chaos that could single-handedly shift the momentum of a 7-game series, turning a hockey game into a street fight. These men used physical tools to create a psychological advantage. They dominated physical space. They created fear through the promise of violence. That was the currency of power in their NHL. But the game is different now, the league is different, the world is different. The currency of power is no longer just physical dominance. It's attention. In a world of 24-hour news cycles, of endless social media scrolls, the most valuable commodity is the eyeball. The ability to capture it, to hold it, to direct it, that is the new power. PK Subban, a student of the modern game, simply updated the arsenal. The psychological warfare of Howe, Subban deployed it not against one player but against the entire media ecosystem. The threat of Hull's slapshot that controlled space. Subban's outfit was a visual threat so potent it controlled the entire narrative space, pushing every other story to the margins. The chaotic explosion of Schultz. Subban created a digital explosion, a viral moment of chaos that hijacked the league's most important night. And here is the sharpest edge of the blade. Subban was not on that panel as a player, he was there as an analyst. His job, his entire purpose in that chair was to break down the game, to illuminate the stories on the ice, to explain the significance of Buffalo's win, of Utah's debut, of New York's historic failure. Instead, he became an eclipse. He used his platform not to analyze the story, but to become it. He subverted his own role with terrifying efficiency. He didn't need to throw a punch to become the most feared man in hockey that night. He just had to get dressed. He created a spectacle so overwhelming that real hockey news, a 13-year drought ending, a new team's debut, a historic collapse of an entire metropolitan market, became invisible. While one NHL team was taking action against a fan for a despicable Nazi salute, a moment of real-world ugliness that demanded focus and condemnation, the oxygen was being sucked out of the room by a debate over inseams. It was a perfect storm of distraction, and PK Subban stood in the calm center of it, smiling. The verdict. So how bad was PK Subban's ESPN outfit actually? As a piece of clothing, it was questionable, debatable, a matter of taste. As a topic of conversation, it was absurd. But as an act of power, as a demonstration of one man's ability to bend the entire media landscape to his will, it was terrifying. It was a masterclass in the art of modern celebrity, a brutal display of narrative control. It was a reminder that the old monsters used their fists and their sticks to dominate a sheet of ice. The new ones use a camera and a Twitter account to dominate the entire conversation. It proved that in the 21st century, the most dominant player isn't always the one who scores the most goals or throws the biggest hits. Sometimes it's the one who understands that if your pants are loud enough, nobody else can hear a thing.